Next up, I'm pleased to welcome our second Smart Bets contestant, Faisal Al Mutar from Ideas Beyond Borders in Iraq, pitching their project Open for Business in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, simplifying startup legislation. Faisal, come on down, mate.
Hello. Good evening, everyone. It's such a privilege to be here. I used to watch and know about Atlas Network for more than a decade. My first interaction of information was being in Iraq, listening to radio banned by Saddam Hussein at 2 in the morning. And when I told my dad, why do we have to listen to it right now? And why do we have to hide the radio? He said, if Saddam knew, we would be all dead by now. So, ladies and gentlemen, for far too long, the Middle East has been plagued with violence, from civil wars to regional wars. I myself have been a victim of that. I lost members of my family, I lost friends, and many people that I hold dear to my heart. We're watching the same violence unfold today. The Middle East now is a different place than when I made the pitch the first time for Smart Bets. In fact, when I did my first rehearsal for this program, one of our translators was killed as I was doing about the rehearsal. When I was a teenager, I was kind of forced to make two choices. Either I allow extremists to control us or fight them. And from the beginning, I believed that the solution lies in people, not their governments. This is why I created, with the help of many of my friends, and some of them are here, Ideas Beyond Borders. And we have chosen, and at the core of our belief, is that we have chosen construction over destruction. Ideas Beyond Borders, at its core, it's about empowering their people. And our mission is very noble, is that if we do our job, we will cease to exist. So in that way, maybe I can get some sleep at night. And our first mandate when we started was knowledge. We're mostly known in the Middle East region as the organization that helped create Arabic Wikipedia. We have translated more than 30 million words about articles from civil liberties to human rights to everything in between. And these are 30 million words that never existed before. In fact, we're training artificial intelligence right now for us to be able to get as much access information with 4 languages: Arabic, Pashto, Farsi, and Kurdish. And then we didn't stop at Wikipedia. We started building one of the largest libraries of classical liberal works, translated books from free speech to Steven Pinker, Enlightenment Now, to many others. And then we didn't stop there too. We started working on fighting corruption and making sure that people actually have food on the table. Hence, our work, and this is our followers, this is the media platform that we have built with the work of many classical liberal friends. Tom Palmer always calls me once in a while, "Hey, I have a new guy for me," and they always join us to build this amazing coalition of organizations and individuals that have a reach of more than 8.6 million people. So hence, Kurdistan is open for business. Many of you may know Kurdistan. It's a region that exists from the northern part of Iraq to east of Syria, west of Iran, and south of Turkey. The Kurdistan region of Iraq is a place that actually exists and has a parliament that we are proudly working for. Iraqi Kurdistan, in fact, I left my country after being on a death list in 2009, and I came back to Iraq 2 years ago. And Kurdistan was the first place in the country, in the Middle East, that actually offered us to open an office over there. They need our help now. And one of the things that they emphasized on is that we actually want to move away from the curse of oil and the curse of corruption and the curse of big government. And we have 60% of the people in that government work in government jobs. Just think about that for a bit. 60% of the people who live in that region are still dependent on government jobs, and this is what we're trying to change. So what would additional funding help us? We're aiming to create an equivalent of LegalZoom. If you know what LegalZoom is, it's one of the easiest websites to register a business. And we want to change the dates of registration and the time it takes from 3 months to 3 days. Pretty ambitious, I know. But we have worked already with many of our partners in the Kurdistan region of Iraq to change the cybersecurity law, to move more towards a more libertarian or classical liberal approach, in which, while the solution in the region mostly tend to be authoritarian, we were able to move them in a direction in which they can actually follow and respect privacy rights. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of our partners who will work with us in this. So I'll leave you with this. The we're bombarded with negative news about the Middle East and everything in between, from the war in Gaza to the destruction of the US bases in Iraq. I think that there is a lot of positive news that you're not hearing, and I want to share a very quick story about one of our Innovation Hub supporters, who I'm sure some of you have already got some of the bags that we have created. And this is somebody who hires widows who were destroyed by and lost by family by ISIS. When we succeed, the region will change from a place where the future is feared to one where the possibilities are limitless. Thank you so much.
I'm a stickler for that 5 minutes, Faisal, so thank you for dealing with me, my friend. But rules are rules, and I'm just your humble host.
I respect that. Thank goodness I was in shot, so that's a good thing.
All right, question number 1 on your 5 minutes is from Annie. How do you plan to ensure that local government continues supporting the rollback of government control? How are you going to get that buy-in to make sure the reforms stick?
So when we moved in, when I came back to Iraq 11 years later, one of my first meetings was with the Office of the Prime Minister of the Kurdistan Regional Government. And with the Kurdistan Regional Government, I mean, they do have democratic elections. And I was able to meet with the 2 other major parties who all seem to have the same goal, which is we need to move away from oil, we have to privatize the private sector, and they have commitments. So even if the ruling party loses or changes its demographics, we have commitment from all of the other players in the Kurdistan Regional Government to actually achieve the goal of privatization.
I'm curious, raising this question from Julie, which speaks to the Atlas Network's spirit. Is this scalable in other countries? Is this something that you could see really going beyond borders, dare I say?
Definitely. The reason, I mean, when I was in Kurdistan, Iraq, and I saw a lot of people who come from my hometown in Baghdad. I'm from the capital city, born in Lebanon. And when they saw Kurdistan, they were very inspired to take this home, to actually move, to see what the policies that have worked there, to actually take it to the federal country, to Baghdad, where the federal government is. Not all countries in the region are equal. Some are some are more equal than others. And there are some places like Saudi Arabia, which is now also moving towards privatization. So I would say the countries that tend to have what I would call the curse of oil, all trying to move towards privatizations. The one that have followed socialist regimes, this is where we actually have many of our followers, is that because they know that socialism doesn't work. So I think that there's definitely a future there, but I think that the places where oil has been the dominant force, I think there's definitely a great force for moving towards privatization.
Faisal, I have a question from Fred here. How can your proposed website be effective before business and corporation laws and regulations are effectively reformed in Kurdistan?
So that's what I mentioned about the fact that we have the buy-in from many of the people inside the region, 8.6 million people, and that's constantly growing, is that even when we announced our program, the Innovation Hub, which is pretty much a micro-grant program to support small businesses, we get roughly about 1,000 applications per week. And some of them are not great, but some of them are amazing, like the one I mentioned, which is he's hiring widows destroyed or killed by ISIS, or their husbands killed by ISIS, and they have a lot of scalability. So we do have the reach, and part of the program is actually we tell the people that this is going to happen, and then when they get the funding from us, the website will actually show that this thing all works. So the fact is, like the evolution of the program is actually we start supporting businesses who use that website, and they're going to tell all their friends and family and the extended community that this actually is real, and let's start more businesses. And I said 60% of the youth want to start a business of their own.
Faisal, I have a follow-up question from Fred. I think we all know how tough it can be to get these reforms done, but in the face of crony interests, in the face of ideological opposition. So what actions are you going to take to prevent opposition to your proposed reforms by existing organizations that want to keep the status quo?
Great question. I mean, part of the reason we have been successful in the region, despite the fact that it's a region plagued by conflict and sectarian warfare, is that we're not a polarizing one. So we pretty much work with everybody who supports some ideals of classical liberalism. We have been known of building the coalition within the Iraqi parliament that advances liberal values. And as I mentioned, is that we talk to the ruling party, but we're also aiming to work with all of the people to tell them is like, this is the future. And the dependency that you have right now, in which every day Iran might cut out the oil away from you or might attack the parliament in our bill, you're going to face the consequences if you're going to stay dependent on the fact and the oil there, and the region there. So I think most people have the buy-in. The only ones who don't have the buy-in are the authoritarians who don't like what we do.
With your last 30 seconds, Faisal, you get a free question from me. What's the one thing the audience should be taking away from your pitch today about Ideas Beyond Borders?
There are stories that are not being told. I consider myself one of them, of somebody who walked over dead bodies to go to school and now have an organization on the stage to talk to many of you. And there are a lot of these stories out there, and I'm very happy that my organization is building all of these coalitions of these people to actually make sure that the region does not export refugees, but where people, tourists like you, can come and live in safety.
Well, thank you very much, Faisal. How about that, ladies and gentlemen?
Thank you so much.